Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fearless and Free TV. Remember that together we can create a new world based in freedom and prosperity for all. I'm super excited about this guest I'm bringing on today, Salini. She had experience with the MK Ultra. So those of you who don't think MK Ultra is real, Salini is going to explain to you that in fact it is. She's now a spiritual teacher and a guide for humanity, and very well aware of what's happening on the planet right now and has solutions to help us heal what's happening on the planet. Before I bring her on, I just want to remind all of you about my 6D Money Tree program. That's all about growing money in the etheric field so that it can manifest here. And if you want to be a part of creating a new concept for humanity to bring in prosperity for everyone, you might want to jump on this program. And if you have issues, you suspect you have issues or blocks regarding money, this program works for you as well. So you might want to jump over and grab that. Oh, and before I forget, starting in September, I'm starting a new group called the Transcendence Tribe. I'm going to be teaching live every Wednesday evening, Pacific time. And that is going to also be made available through a link on my website. But for now, if you want to get a jump start on that and stay tuned and stay connected with me, go ahead and hop over to my website and grab your free book, Rise Up, and get on my newsletter. And when you do, I'll send out some information about how you can participate in these live teachings and classes every week. It's a great place for Q&A and mutual support. And it's been demanded by some of my students, so I'm making it available to the world for anyone who wants to attend. My website is victoriareynolds.com. And I look forward to seeing you over there. So now let's bring in Salini. Good morning, Salini. Or I guess it's afternoon your time.
It's about that, yeah. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a really interesting time to be alive, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. We came for this, didn't we?
Yeah, and it's really interesting when we get to that place where we recognize that we put ourselves here specifically for the here and now. And some of us have known this for a while. I mean, like for me, I had my awakening experience back in 2008. 2008 is when I started waking up and realizing that I'm, spirit having a human experience. And that we knew this great awakening was coming. Well, they've been talking about it for thousands of years, but it's wild to actually be here and in it after talking about it for thousands of years.
And indeed it is. I mean, can we believe we got to this point with this dark energy that we have to defeat, with this kind of scenario going on? I mean, I knew something was coming, but I didn't know it was going to be like this,
Yeah.
So we're kind of like, okay, the battle's on, let's get on with it.
Right. The final battle between good and evil. And
Right.
And we're actually in it. Yeah. It just doesn't look the way people expected it to look. I was saying that years ago, the ascension doesn't look the way people expect it to look. So a lot of people aren't recognizing it. But this is it, baby.
It is. This is it. I mean, in the beginning of the COVID, it didn't seem quite so bad. Maybe it'll be over. But then they accelerated their pressure on us. And that's when you begin to see the real agenda, which is genocide, to genocide the population, basically to remove the humans so they can take over this planet for their hybrid species that they want to create here. So this is a battle for not only for your life or death, but it's a battle for your soul, because this is the soul harvest. This is the harvest time. And both the light and the dark have come to harvest souls. So it's really important for you to be on the right side of history. Excuse me. And that means no vaccinations. That's the only way you're going to be safe from this harvest that's taking place right now.
Yeah. So before we get into that, if either of us say any words that might be non-friendly to the show.
Okay, you want me not to say that? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know if that's one of the words that gets bleeped out or not, or if I need to go in and bleep it, but it's fine.
Okay, we can always put in a different euphemism for that.
Yeah, we can do the arm pokes or
Yes. Mhm.
the chemical injections.
Sure.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think my channel might still be small enough that they're not paying attention to me, but or not. I don't know.
We'll get through it. We'll definitely do it.
Yeah. So what I want to know, I know who you are now as a teacher and as a speaker of truth and one of the freedom fighters. What I want to know is I want my audience to get to know you. And I understand that you were MK Ultra at one point in your life. So I want to hear about that. One, what is MK Ultra, which I know, but I don't know if a lot of my audience knows. And how did you get in and how did you get out?
Sure. Be happy to explain that. And I think people absolutely need to understand what MK Ultra is because most of you are also being MK Ultra in a lesser way than I was. So the MK Ultra program, the MK stands for mind control, and it's the German MK. And it was created by Dr. Joseph Mengele, the Auschwitz doctor of death, where they were experimenting on the Jews with these very programs in the concentration camps and all the different people. They weren't just Jewish people. There were political prisoners and gypsies and gay people and all that kind of stuff. So all those people became test subjects for Dr. Mengele as he was trying to create this evil satanic program. And he, of course, was a high priest in the satanic movement. So Dr. Mengele survived World War II and was brought to the United States under an alias. Like there was thousands of Nazi doctors, scientists, and other people that were brought here to the United States under Operation Paperclip. And during that time, they were whitewashed. Their identities were whitewashed. And they were given jobs, high salaries, and they started NASA. They started think tanks and foundations and things like that, where they could study all the evil things that they wanted to study. So Dr. Mengele then began his mind control programs here in the United States, and that's where people like me came in. So during the 50s and the 60s, they mind controlled somewhere in the vicinity of 50 million children. I know it's a high figure, but that is true. And they're guessing that somewhere between 20 and 30 million of those children are alive and are running the world right now. So the mind control programs extended to Canada and to other places as well. It wasn't just the United States. But we probably have the most extensive mind control here in the United States, and California being one of the most mind controlled places in the world. And I hate to say it, but I mean, I had to leave California because there's so much mind control here. I was born and raised in Silicon Valley, and my father was a Mason. And so, as a result of his affiliation with the Masons, and his father and his grandfather were also Masons, and probably all the way back, and farther back in the line, the males in my family were all from the South, and they were KKK members. So the Masons, the KKK is created and controlled by the Masons. The Masons are primarily sex traffickers, racists, pedophiles, and business people. So altogether, you know, the Masons are about money. And if you're a Mason, everything's a secret. And you have to go through the ritual to be humiliated and to be often sexually molested. And then you get put up at the top. If you allow yourself to go through all these rituals and get up to 33rd degree, then you're given a career and a guaranteed income and all kinds of things like that. So, you know, you'll see Masons throughout the world, and judges, lawyers, doctors, um, real estate owners, counselors, teachers, everywhere, firemen, policemen, and they have their own code. They don't answer to the law. They don't answer to God. They answer to the Masons. So it's all about money and power for them. So my father being in the Masons, you have to sacrifice your children if you're in the Masons. And so in his case, he decided to sacrifice all three of us. And I was the prize. So because I had a lot of light, I was born with a lot of light, they came down on me very hard. And so I was put into the beta sex kitten program, MK Ultra beta sex kitten, which is sex slavery as a child. And that training begins at birth. And my sister, who's 7 years older than me, told me that she saw me being molested the day I was born. So they start right away. And in many cases, they start while you're in the womb by traumatizing the mother and traumatizing the infant fetus. And the idea is to get you constantly traumatized, because when you're traumatized, you have compartmentalized thinking. And they compartmentalize different parts of your brain and create different personalities. And that's how they create a Manchurian candidate. So the Manchurian candidates are the ones who are committing, assassinations and crimes. So, like all the school shootings, those boys that do those shootings are all MK Ultra Delta Manchurian candidates, or Delta super soldiers, whatever you want to call them. They've been trained to be school shooters. So that program was called the Project Orion. And their goal was to get thousands of boys who would kill other children as part of the traumatization program, and to remove guns. So those of us who were in my case, I was in the sex kitten program, we were primed to be very attractive and very sexual, so that we would seduce people into their world. And also so that I would be somebody that they could exploit sexually as a child. So that was my childhood, was being exploited sexually. But they also take you through a trauma-based mind control training, where they want your mind to be a certain way. So I was being turned into a human computer. So I went through a lot of traumatic brain training, and which made me pretty sharp. I mean, it has a positive side to it as well. Like, I have a super sharp memory. I could read a book in 5 minutes, like a 500-page book, and a lot of different things that I was able to do. And they're getting you, training you to be a remote viewer, and whatever your gifts are, like, they're checking to see what gifts you're born with, and then they want to enhance them. So that's what I went through, was this enhancing process. At the same time, I was being tortured and abused. So the interesting thing about it is that it was dark and light that I was born into, because my father's on the dark side, my mother's on the light. She didn't know what he was doing. And I believe that he put her under a spell. I really think so, because she never even knew what was going on. And on her side, my mother was a spiritual luminary. Let me tell you, she was incredibly spiritual. She was a Reiki master. She was a Zen Buddhist. She practiced. She went to Zen sessions, and she took me to healers, to Zen masters, to famous psychics, and she put me through training. So I started training as a healer and a meditator as a child at 5 years old, is where she was teaching me to heal at 5 years old. I was already healing animals when I was 5 years old. By the time I was 10 years old, I was healing all the kids in the neighborhood and cracking their necks. And must have been a chiropractor in my last life, because I'm really into chiropracting. And I did it to all the kids in the neighborhood, and they would let me do it. And I just seemed to know what to do. So I was born with a lot of spiritual gifts, Victoria. And so, the dark wants those for themselves, because they don't know how to access God. They've lost connection to their divine self. So they come to people like us, or like me, and they try to co-opt our gifts. And then on my side, but what I see is that I was like an undercover angel dropped into the dark, so that I could witness what they do, so that I would know how to break it down. So my mother, brought Mrs. Takata, Hawaii Takata, the Grand Master of Reiki, to our home. My mother was responsible for bringing her to the United States and starting her career as a Reiki master in the United States. And of course, she's globally famous for being the first Western Reiki master. And she asked my mother to be the next Grand Master, and then she asked me to be the next Grand Master. So I carried the tradition of Reiki on, and she was my mentor for 20 years. I believe that Mrs. Takata is the one who saved my life, because she stayed with us several times a year while she was traveling, teaching. And I was always receiving, she'd have me on the table when she's teaching, and I would receive dozens and dozens of healing treatments and especially mental treatments from her throughout my childhood. So she started our house at about when I was about 9. And I had the benefit of her for 20 years after that, of her constantly working on me, giving me Reiki, mentoring me. And I believe that's what broke my programming, because when I was a little bit older, then I was able to see that Reiki alone, when I became a Reiki master, is when I had all my memories of being an MK Ultra. So the connection between the divine energy of Reiki and healing the mind control was cemented in me. And I could see that God's divine energy, which is what Reiki is, completely heals any form of abuse or mind control there may be. And that was what launched me on my career as a healer, was when I realized that I was both a light being, but I had been through this dark, and that I needed to use the light that I understood and the healing that I understood to heal the dark. So there I began my career as a Reiki master, and I began breaking the programming of other people. And that's at this point, I'm writing a book about how to break the programming and what we need to know and do in order to overcome what's happening right now. Because I can tell you what's happening right now is advanced mind control. The people that are submitting to being jabbed and whatever have been mind controlled through the television and through the movies and through trauma. Trauma is a way to program people. 9/11, JFK's assassination, all those things are global traumas, which force us to be fearful and we acquiesce, you know. But when you've been traumatized, you have to be brave enough to break through your trauma and say, I'm not going to let you traumatize me. I'm not going to believe it. And I'm going to go to the other side of it, and I'm going to reclaim my power. And that's what I did. You know, they create a wall between you and your power and your strength and your heart. And you have to walk through the pain of it and reclaim your power. And that's what I did, Victoria.
Oh, that is so fantastic. Yeah, I didn't know if it was a program that you had to like a cult escape from, or what exactly that meant. So what ended up happening like with your dad and the Mason part of it?
Well,
Could you
there's a
break it
lot of, there's like a 190 different MK Ultra programs. So for some people that were in it, they were in, like, for example, Kathy O'Brien is the most well-known MK Ultra victim. And her father sold her to Gerald Ford, the president, who was a horrible rapist. And they took her into the program. She became a sex slave as a child, and she was taken into what's called the Presidential Model Program. And she was trained to be a sex slave and a human computer. And she was sold to Robert Byrd, Senator Robert Byrd, who passed away not too long ago. And he was her handler her whole life, and he was an outrageous racist and pedophile. And so he owned her, but she was also used in government situations. Like, they call it a presidential model, where they send her to different leaders with messages. So she's a courier, so she'll have sex with whoever it is and give them a message or whatever. So that's a whole nother thing. I think the reason why that didn't happen to me is my dad was really pretty low on the totem pole. And plus, as ill as he was, he loved me, and he wouldn't have wanted to let me go. I belonged to him. He wanted me to be there, be near him. So I didn't get taken into any cults. I just went through the trauma-based mind control. And what happened in our case is that we grew up, and he just let us grow up. You know, he didn't try to take us anywhere. But what I noticed is that my sibling was taken into the intelligence services. And as a result, he went through the Alpha training program, and went through a very deep mind control program, which is called um, brainstem scarring. So they select certain people for brainstem scarring so that they will be like geniuses in one area. And in his case, he became a computer genius. And so he's lived his life out with that mind control program that's never broken. And in the case of my sister, she died of it. So I'm the only one that broke free, and I broke free probably because I'm powerful, and I'm an Aquarius. I'm not afraid to say that I'm a powerful spiritual person. And I used to say to my mom, you got to break free. You got to just say no to dad because he's violent and scary. And she just couldn't bring herself to do it because he also had a good side. This is the thing about the dark that you don't understand. They're not all completely dark. Some of them are completely dark. Somebody like George Bush Sr. is like really horrendous, dark overlord. But my father was not at that category at all. I mean, he had a good side, which was there from time to time, and he loved being in a family. He loved having a family. Christmas was always a lot of fun at our house. I mean, there were some good things that he would do, but then they slipped into their own. He was also abused and mind controlled. So he slipped into his programming, and that's when we would get abused. And you never knew when that was coming. So it wasn't like he wasn't like a member of the Nazi party or something, and they were meeting every week, or he wasn't even a member of a satanic party. He didn't do the Satanist stuff. What he was really interested in was money and power. And the Masons provided him that. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. But at the same time, he was glad he had a family. I mean, I could tell that he and my mom loved each other, even though he could be. Actually, I never saw him abuse her. It was us that he abused, and he never did it with her. So this is just more of a part of his own compartmentalization. It wasn't a part of a cult. And but the Masons themselves really are, I don't know if you'd call them a cult, or it's a secret society that's been here for hundreds of years. And they do sacrifice children regardless of what they're going to tell you. The lower degree Masons do not know what the upper degree Masons do. So they don't even know that the higher degree Masons are sacrificing children and women on a regular basis. So that's going on all over the world, and they're responsible for sex trafficking all over the world. So I'm just fortunate that my dad didn't get very far, or wasn't very interested in sending me off to that, because I probably never would have returned. It's a lot of those people don't make it back out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is my destiny, Victoria. This is my spiritual destiny. I was born for this. And so I was born to be able to break this and to show people what MK Ultra really is, and to tell people that you've all been MK Ultra. You've all been MK Ultra through the TV, through your traumatic lives, through the tax system, through the slave system that we live in. This is the beast system. And their final piece of enslavement is the jab. And they want to put everybody in permanent enslavement by putting the nanobots inside of your body. And once you have that, you are part of the hive mind, and they can control you. Um, the I don't want to say that word, but it's FIVEG that's coming. And when they turn that on, it's going to activate the nanobots that are in everybody who have been jabbed. So we have a Holocaust ahead that's going to be worse than what we have right now. And so I'm here to tell all of you, I'm here to break your mind control programming. I'm here to help you out of the beast system and out of enslavement into freedom, because I've done it. I've accomplished it.
Wow. Yeah, and I know the reason you experienced that extreme darkness is so that you could bring the extreme light, right? It's that some of us chose, now going back to us soul, on a soul level, we chose as a soul to experience these very dark experiences so that we could bring the contrast of light and help people. In my cases, I help people recover from religious abuse, but help people work through the trauma of the mind control that we've been in. And we talked before camera how I was seeing that the jab is created to basically attacks our electromagnetic system, the human electromagnetic system. And that's why so many people are having heart issues and blood issues from it. The other question that I had for you now, I've completely blanked on. Oh, the other thing that I got from Spirit a couple of days ago is one, we talked, some of us talked for a while about television and how the TV is being used to feed humanity the dark vision. That's why it's called television, and that's why it's called programming, because it actually is being used to tell their visions and to program us. And so you were talking about MK Ultra, and what I realized is that is the reason for Mockingbird Media. Their scripts are all written in advance, specifically to use specific words in specific language to control the masses. And that's why they all use exactly the same script.
Yes, that is exactly what happens. And when you're being trauma-based mind control, it's the same thing. They're speaking into your ear, they have tapes, and they're saying, you're this, you're that. And there was a program that they inserted into me that you're a bad person and you have to do what you're told and nobody's ever going to love you. That's what they would say over and over. You're not going to have anything and nobody's ever going to love you. So in order to unprogram that, I had to go through a lot of poverty and abusive relationships and stuff like that. Um, and then you come into your divinity and you realize how beautiful we are. And I don't do any of those things anymore. And so there's a process of clearing the mind that has to happen from all of the deep programming that's gone on, including the television. And on top of that, there's programs that are inserted when you arrive on this planet by the alien controllers to make us forget who we are. So they don't want us to remember our divinity. And we are really powerful. Let me tell you, folks, you are powerful. And you have all the tools you need to throw off your enslavement, including some that I'm going to introduce here today, Victoria.
So I'm really, really looking forward to that. What I realized when you were just talking about, so you had your MK Ultra programming, but an example of programming that humanity as a whole has experienced over the thousands of years before the term MK Ultra is the programming of "you're not worthy." How many human beings are raised with that programming from the moment they're born, that they are not worthy, that they're not good enough, that being prosperous is evil, that it's written into our belief systems, that program.
They want us to be poor because they want it all for themselves.
Yeah, and we have to undo it. That's one of the things that I have been trying to teach my audience, and what I talk about in my money tree program is that the programming was created intentionally to keep money out of the hands of the masses and in the hands of the few. So we have to unprogram all this programming that in your case through MK Ultra, but this has been handed down for thousands of years to keep humanity from recognizing our true divine potential, and that every one of us is born to be prosperous, and that we are the creators of our reality. All that stuff was programmed to keep us from recognizing our true divine nature.
And on top of that, I'm going to add something to what you just said, and that is that women in particular were programmed to be less than men and to be less powerful. And this is the programming we've had for thousands of years, is this Christian programming, and Muslims, unfortunately, too. And I'm not against any religions or anybody. I'm just saying that there's a program that the women are less than. And so we were burned at the stake. We were murdered, during the Inquisition for hundreds and hundreds of years. And women that stepped forward, and maybe they were herbalists or healers or they had psychic abilities, they were all burned at the stake. And this was an attempt, it was way beyond even the churches. This was an attempt by the dark forces to prevent the divine frequency that comes through the mother energy from healing the planet and from saving humanity and from purifying our DNA. And I'm here to tell you, the divine mothers are here, and I'm one of them. And we came to purify and restore your DNA back to what you were when you were a perfect human being. And you women are going to be powerful, just as powerful as any male. And many of you will be more powerful, because it is the woman, it is the female that creates life. and she needs to be treated sacredly because she's the temple of life. And there's no moment in time where she'd ever be less than anybody on this planet. And we need to hold her body as a temple very sacredly because she's bringing the humans into the planet. And they're trying to co-opt that, even our ability to be born, our DNA, all that stuff. Now, even in currently, they want to make, you can't call people he and she, and, you know, we have to have, and men can give birth and all this kind of stuff. This is transhumanism, and it's Baphomet. They're trying to create the Baphomet, the male female character who's both, and this is their attempt to co-opt the role of the mother who gives birth. There is no such thing as a he she combination person who is a Baphomet. There is the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and you make a choice, and one of those gives birth and one of those has a seed, you know, and you need to allow that consciousness to do what it's supposed to do, which is to bring life to earth. So you know, the agenda that is being put forth is to wipe out traditional motherhood and traditional families, and ultimately what they're trying to do with the arm jab is to um, wipe out all natural humans, and they're going to create a hybrid race. And that's why we have to stop it. We have to completely stop their agenda.
Yeah, yeah. And I think enough of us are starting to understand, you know, one of the things I was seeing with this agenda too is being able to control, and they always show us in the movies what their plan is. And that's for two reasons. One, because the prime directive on our planet is free will choice. So we have to, not conscious free will choice is coming, but it still isn't playing on this field presently. So free will choice. So they have to show us what their plan is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we choose it through blind compliance. And they also show us through the movies what their plan is so that we can help. Again, it's about us because we're the creators, right? Our vision creates reality. If they show us what the plan is, then we use our vision to create that vision on their behalf. So we see in the movies what the plan is. And what, you know, and so all these doomsday end of the world things is exactly what they have planned. They want to get rid of human beings. They want AI to become the dominant intelligence. They want and they want to control who is and isn't allowed to raise the younglings, the children.
Mm-hmm.
So people will not be allowed to have natural birth. They'll, you know, and I think that's part of it is one, get rid of the family unit, get rid of any kind of sexual attraction between people. And if you mess with their hormones enough, you can do that. And then the government gets to choose. It's all about the people at the top choosing for us everything we're allowed to do. And that's their goal ultimately, is to put themselves in the position of ultimate power and everyone else under the control of the ultimate power.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of this younger generation convinced that communism is the answer to the world's problems. And I know this because I work with a bunch of the younger generation. My children are both teenagers, and I know what they're being programmed with. But this isn't even communism. What Spirit was showing me is it's totalitarianism. It's global totalitarianism.
Right.
And that people need to understand that it is totalitarianism makes communism look friendly. And that's really what the ultimate goal is. So we need to wake the F up and commit. And as we were talking about earlier, and I'm so excited that you're here, and come with the solutions instead of just complaining about what's happening in the world and complaining about the future that's being foretold and foreseen. Let's focus on the solutions. How do we stop this agenda from continuing? As the creators of our reality, what can we do to put an end to this dark agenda that is attempting to take over the planet like a dark plague that's trying to siphon the life out of humanity?
Well, there's some events that are going to take place, that are destined to take place. But specifically, what's happening is the death of the matrix. We're at the end of one era and the birth of another one. So people who want to live in that timeline, the dark timeline, and go down that dark path and get jabbed and be scared all the time and be controlled and live in communist controlled environments and camps and stuff, you can go that way if you want to, but you won't live very long, because their goal is to decimate humanity and have only 500,000 people on Earth, or 500 million people on Earth. But if you want to go into 5D, you're going to have to surrender your attachment to the 3D matrix. That's one of the first things you have to do. And that means you may have to give up your possessions and all the things that were comfortable in a 3D reality, because everything in the 3D reality is connected to the beast system. Like everything's patented, everything's a corporation, everything you buy is a corporation. Everything you work with, you're working for companies, they're invested in the tax system, in IRAs and 401ks and all that. And you have to let all that go and become, and wow, we're having some big thunder here.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you can hear it, but it's really loud. And we have some most beautiful thunder here.
Where are you located?
Florida, in
Okay.
Florida. It's beautiful here. And so you also have to be willing to learn how to live more organically, back in touch with the earth and with nature. People are going to have to grow their own food. People are going to have to learn how to be just like the old days, be very self-sufficient and have fruit trees and farm animals and things like that. We're going to get some milk and cheese and butter. And we can't be eating factory farmed food. And it's going to be really horrible for people to know, but that all fast food restaurants contain human meat. So if you're eating out of fast food restaurants, that's part of the goal, to train you into cannibalism. So people that have been sacrificed are put into the fast food system. So I know it's a horrible reality, but this is what's going on. You need to know that all these things need to be gone, and they will be gone. So we're going to have a splitting of the earth, and those people who've chosen the awakening are going to go down the 5D path, and it's going to be a dramatic change in your lifestyle. And you may have to go without. You may have a very simple lifestyle. We may not even have the internet, or if we may not need the internet, because we're going to be telepathic. And so, we're going to be restored to our divine potential and our divine gifts, so we can create our own health, and we can create our own food and our own housing. We don't need this beast system, which is tied into Satanism. We don't need any of that, because that's a control suppression matrix, and we're going into a freedom blossoming matrix. So it's a change in perception. It's a change in the mind control programs need to lift off, so that you realize how divine you are. So you're going to be unprogrammed, and I'm going to do it. A bunch of us are going to do it, and that requires a mental program that I'm creating for everybody. And there's a lot of us out there that are doing it, and so you're not going to have to give up a certain way of looking at the world. Like, I want to have my football game every Sunday, and I want to have big chunks of meat, and maybe I want to have a lot of pleasure, sexual pleasure or whatever. And these are very material oriented lifestyles. We're going into a whole nother spiritually oriented lifestyle. I'm not saying you don't ever get to enjoy food and another person or anything, but you're going to be thinking about your spiritual awakening more than your material comforts, because man has become addicted to the lower chakras, to material comfort, and that needs to be transformed into awareness of your divinity, because we are more than we are physical bodies. We are divine beings. We are spiritual luminaries. We really are. And so one of the steps in between that I'm going to offer people is the healing frequency that was downloaded to me from heaven. They're talking about how you can't get through this without the arm stick and blah, blah, blah. Well, this fake illness is really just a head cold. And, they never stopped the world for tuberculosis or any of the other illnesses that are far more serious. The goal here is totalitarianism, like you just said it. It isn't about solving an illness. We have a very simple solution for it, and that is the healing frequency that I've been downloaded to. And if anybody would like that healing frequency, I'll leave my information with Victoria, and I will send it to you along with a mandala that you can use, and you will be protected from the spike proteins and the nanobots, and you won't have to worry about this ever again. And once we get past that and all this malarkey going on, then we can start building the new millennium. And we will. Each one of you are going to come to realize what your real purpose is and why you were born. And you're going to start some kind of a project. A lot of people are going to be, building cities. Some people are going to be building new types of agriculture. Some people are going to be building new kinds of healing centers and with med beds and light frequency and sound frequency and all the things that are going to be coming to Earth. All of you are going to be involved in. Those of you who choose 5D will be given a job, and you will be given funding, and you're going to be allowed to be a part of the solution instead of a victim of this horrible system, So those people who bought into that system, I hate to say it, but it's not a happy ending for them. And yet it's not too late for some of you who are going to have jab remorse. Come on over to this side, and I can help you neutralize the effects of the jab. So from that point on, once we get past this thing, we're going to start expanding, growing, expanding, growing. But the old matrix has to fall away, and all the people who are connected to it will also fall away. And I can promise you there is a new world coming, and people will survive. But in between, we're going to see a holocaust, I'm afraid, of the results of this thing. So we need to pray. We need to pray for these people that their souls will go straight to a beautiful place, and that they can start over at a new location, and that we get to do the work here that we were born to do, because this is it. This is the Great Awakening. That's what we're really here for. We're not here for the great totalitarianism. We're here for the Great Awakening. And you need to remember that's what you chose. You chose to be here for the Great Awakening. All you have to do is remember it, and we can restore you completely. And we can get you on the path to the new world that you were meant to be in. Does that make sense, Victoria?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was shown the same thing, and I was kind of in denial of it. I didn't want to know if that's really going to happen, because I've been hearing other people predict a lot of people leaving the planet. And I was shown this a couple of years ago. What Spirit was telling me that anyone who can't raise their vibration to, well, actually I was being shown to at least 50% loving, that they would be left behind, because the planet herself is shifting to 5D, and she will only be able to support human beings and life that's also in at least 5D, which is 5D really is a love-based reality. So for people who want to understand what that is, it really is a reality that's based solely in love. That the matrix we've been living in is a fear-based reality. So everything in our existence has been driven by fear and controlled by fear, unconsciously making our choices in fear, and all of our belief systems are based in fear. So one of the things I do when I'm working with people is help them recognize their fear-based beliefs, because most of us are walking around with fear-based beliefs, not even knowing it, because it's part of our human programming. And that this new reality, this new earth that was predicted thousands of years ago, that's what we're creating right now. And those of us who choose to free ourselves from that matrix that's collapsing and cross that 4D bridge, which is what a lot of humanity is going to be moving into. And that is a very painful place to be. So a lot of people want to make the jump from 3D to 5D without the holy shift that happens in the 4D. It can be a very, waking up can be a very painful experience. And it doesn't have to be, but I find that almost always is, because we have to be brought to our knees to be woken up, to like have that jolt to wake up. And so that's what I see coming in the next couple of years, is this collective holy shift, as I call it. And it's crossing that 4D bridge out of the fear-based matrix and into this love-based reality. And in order to do that, we all have to cross that breaking point of the 4D. That the 4D breaks down everything that isn't love. And that is very uncomfortable and very painful, because we have to disbelieve everything we've always believed. And so when I tuned in and asked about that a couple of days ago, I wasn't really prepared. I knew what I was shown as, years ago, is that people that can't make the shift to light speed would be left behind. And but I didn't expect it to be that many people. And so what I was being shown is that hundreds of millions, possibly over 1 billion people will purged from the planet. It's kind of a big way of saying it, but that's really what's happening, is that all of these people who can't raise their vibration up to 5D, at the very least to upper 4D, the planet will no longer support. And it was also part of their soul agreement that there would come a time when the planet, what Spirit was showing me about 10 years ago, is that Earth is a learning planet until our collective of souls decide for it to be a place of peace. And enough of our collective of souls have decided it's time for this to be a place of peace. So on a soul level, all the souls that are not part of that agreement are going to be transitioning out. So those who do choose, and there will be some who will choose the totalitarian lifestyle. That lifestyle is built, and this just came in a couple of days ago, Salini, that lifestyle it's built on quicksand. So it cannot sustain. They talk about sustainability, and I keep saying sustainability is not good enough, but sustainability basically means sustenance. That's not good enough. That's mere sustenance. Do we really want to just sustain when we're being given the opportunity for prosperity for all instead? So a lot of people are going to buy into the vision of mere sustenance and sustaining the present reality. And then the rest of us are waking up and saying, no, we want something even better. We want to create a world where everyone thrives, not just survives. And so that's what we're moving into. The lies and the deception that's being used by the dark side to make people think that it's light. I call it fear disguised as love and darkness disguised as light. They are so good at using programming words and language that people, it's really, really difficult to recognize the difference. And then once you do, you can't go back. And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to get the rest. I keep saying, it's time for the rest of the light workers to wake up, because we came here to be the light on the planet. And a lot of light workers are following the dark side unknowingly. They need to finish waking up so they can do the work they came here to do. And if they don't, they'll be lost with everyone else. So
right. And there's a couple of things. This is a hard conversation, but we have to tell people. I was contacted by someone whose son had crossed over, and he's on the other side now talking to her about what's happening. And he told her what was coming on Earth. One of the things he told her was to watch Donald Trump, and that he was going to be instrumental in uplifting the planet. And that, of course, nobody believed at the time. And then he also told her that, she asked him, what are you doing up there? And he said, well, we're preparing the healing domes. And she said, and what's that about? And he said, we're preparing for the mass exodus of millions of people from Earth that are going to happen because of the, you know, and he said a lot of these people will have not woken up, and they're going to cross over, and they're going to wake up on the other side. And they're not going to be taken down to hell or anything like that. They're going to be shown what they missed, and they're going to be healed and allowed to wake up. So that, have no fear. Even if you don't survive, you're going to be in the arms of God, and then you're going to have a chance to wake up. This body doesn't really matter. It's just a change of form, you know. Those of us who choose to stay are here to build the new world. And like, I was born for that. And you were saying about messages that you got. I started getting messages about my true mission when I was a child, but I didn't understand, of course. My mom seemed to know whatever else was wrong with her, and she missed the fact that we were getting abused and everything. She seemed to know that I had a mission even as a child. She kept saying, I can tell that you have more light than other people, and I think you're going to do something really incredible. And she really believed in me, you know. So she took me to psychics and healers, and they would say things. And one time she took me to a famous psychic, and it was like a big hall. And this one psychic, I was only 17, and she came down from the stage and she said, I have a message for someone. I'm being given a message. And she said, and I don't know who it is. And she walked through the crowd, and then she stopped in front of me and she looked at me. And then she looked at my mom, and said, is that your daughter? And she said, yeah. And she said, well, she's going to be an incredible bright light in the great darkness that's coming. She said there will be a great darkness on earth in the future. So when she's an older woman, she's going to be holding the light for millions of people on this planet. And so she was describing what's happening right now, but even then, you know, I didn't really understand what that meant. And of course, at 17, I was still being abused, actually. So I wasn't ready at that point, of course. But then throughout my life, just about times when I wanted to give up, and because I've had a really rough road getting here, somebody would always show up and give me a similar message. And I can remember one woman when I was going to quit my healing work and end my Reiki mastership and everything. This woman was in a restaurant eating, and she stared at me from across the room, and then she walked over to me, and she looked at me and she said, I just have to introduce myself. She said, I don't know what you're here to do, but I can see your aura and your angel wings go almost all the way up to heaven. And I can tell that you're a high angel here for some purpose. And she said, and they're telling me to tell you they know that you want to quit. And I'm telling you that they say, don't quit. We want you to keep going. And this was 30 years ago, you know, because I was going through near death experiences and a divorce and all kinds of horrible things. So she said, they want you to keep going and they have a mission for you in the future. And that, I said, okay, you know. And here we are. We finally get here. And this is the most important moment in global history because this has never happened. Like you just said, we made a collective decision to become a planet of peace. But even more than that, we made a collective decision to ascend. And we are ascending into our light bodies, all of us. And your body, your cellular structure is changing from carbon to crystalline. That's what's happening to you. And so when Victoria said that waking is up is painful, it really is. There's no way around it. Awakening is traumatic. You're gonna remember past lives. You're gonna remember trauma. You're gonna suddenly realize you live in a world that's controlled by demonic beings. You're gonna realize that children are being sacrificed. All this stuff is part of awakening. It's shocking, and some people don't survive the awakening process. Then they get a chance to do it somewhere else, you know. But here, on this planet right now, we're going through it. The first time in history that this planet has woken up. We've been a prison planet, whatever you want to call it, a learning planet. This was a planet that has been enslaved for thousands of years. We're releasing our shackles and we will be forever free after this event. And I'm here to tell you that we are going to have a rapture event and there's going to be a purification on this planet. And I was told that by the Ascended Masters, and I was told that by my guru, who is the Holy Mother Amachi of India. She said many years ago, as long as 15, 20 years ago, she said there's going to come a moment where people will not be able to travel. They will not be able to do the things that they normally do. Soon afterwards, there's going to be a great solar flash or divine flash, and all the dark beings are going to be purified and they'll never be here again. They'll be taken away or they'll be destroyed or whatever. And this will be a planet, a purified planet, and we get to start over, and we start over in 5D. Like you said, the vibration will be too high for anybody other than people who are 4D and above. So people need to prepare for that. I mean, as much as you can. And the way you prepare is by surrendering to God. This is about spiritual awakening. These events that are about to occur are to drive you to your spiritual awakening. And they're not about punishment. They're not about you're bad and he's good or vice versa. It's about, do you wish to evolve or not? If you're not ready to evolve, you're going to go to another planet, another timeline, and you're going to go through more lessons. Those of us who've had the lesson and have made the decision are going into this era of beautiful, beautiful planetary ascension. And it's very close. I mean, it's within the next 2 years. It's all this stuff is going to be hard for a while.
Right.
We're going to go through some rough things. We're going to see the deaths. There's going to be war. There's going to be a lot of things. But when it's over, there's ascension. And
Yeah.
that
So
is beautiful.
we're basically being rebirthed as so I'm seeing as the that the tunnel metaphor, right? The light at the end of the darkness, the birth canal. So we're being birthed collectively into this new human experience, and the birthing process is really painful. But whatever, you can use the butterfly. How the butterfly breaks down and then pushing its way out of the cocoon is really, really difficult. It's a very, very dark time. The birthing process, the baby, when it's getting squeezed through the birth canal, it's scary and it's frightening and it almost doesn't survive. So, and this is what we're running into with the collective of humanity. That being squeezed out of the 3D matrix is going to be very painful, and a lot of humanity won't survive. And I was very unprepared for when I got that message a couple of days ago that it might be over 1 billion people that, and it may need to be that. Hopefully not. Hopefully enough people wake up in time for it not to be that, but it's possible that it will be, certainly in the hundreds of millions. And that's over the next 2 years. And unfortunately, I think it's going to start this during cold and flu season. A lot of those people that took the arm pokes are going to get the well, it's interesting because the word Delta means asleep. So how many people are, the Delta project that you talked about and the Delta variant that's being talked about now, it's all about being asleep, and how many people are going to feel a response to that. But it's not just that. I was also seeing earthquakes and fires. Like the planet is going to go through what I was being shown as a baptism by fire.
Well, the West is going to be on fire and the East is going to flood. So California, they're going to continue to all the fires in California are unnatural fires that are due fires, directed energy fires. And they're going to continue. And their goal is to empty out California. They want it for themselves. So California is going to go through a great purification. So just a warning for people in California. I mean, I love California. It's my home state. I've lived there all my life until just 2 months ago. And it's going to have a major global catastrophe of some kind because there's so many dark beings are concentrated in Silicon Valley and Southern California, Hollywood. I was born in Silicon Valley. That's where I was mind controlled. The universities are all mind control centers. Stanford University, Stanford Research Center, Kaiser Hospital, those are all mind control centers. I went to the University of California in Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara is now a hotbed of mind control and transhumanism, robots, all that kind of stuff. Santa Barbara, I raised my family there. It was once a beautiful place, but now it's a place of darkness, and there's a lot of MK Ultra people there living there, and mind controllers living there, doing a lot of the agenda of the deep state. So, and it's happening in different pockets all over California. So there was going to be a great purification of California, or anywhere where there are pockets of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be purified. And that's not a judgment of anybody. I mean, some people will wake up from the dark and come over to the light. Some of them will be like, what was I thinking? And they'll cross over. And I've met a few that have like, the ones that were like Kathy O'Brien didn't know that she was a MK Ultra slave until she was rescued, and then she had to cross over into the light. And so that's always an option for people. God doesn't judge, not like the way we think.
Right.
God allows us to learn and to have free will. And if your free will choice takes you into a rough lesson, so be it. That lesson is what you needed. And so I've learned to accept all those things. But at the same time, you have to have discernment. And I don't allow the dark forces to come into my world anymore because I'm already into 5D. I already have my Merkaba and everything. I'm just waiting for the assignment to begin, and it is beginning now. We're all getting ready to do this now. And so light workers need to take their positions, and they need to hold the light, and they need to prepare for healing centers and transformational centers, places where people can come. This place is going to crash and burn this year. I mean, we're going to have an economic crash. Boom, all of a sudden this place transforms. People are going to flip out because
Yeah.
it's going to be so difficult. They're not going to understand, but I had stocks and I had this and that. And, well, so you had stocks, you don't have them anymore. The stock market is going to go very soon. And maybe you have to till the land. Maybe you're going to have to get a very simple job. Maybe you're going to be who knows, a farmer or a ditch digger or something. But you're going to become closer to nature. We need to go back to Mother Earth. We need to reclaim natural law. We need to be part of the waves of nature, winter, spring, summer, fall, growing, being together in community, helping each other, healing each other, awakening each other. That's what's coming for all of us, including the darkest of the dark. Who's ever still here will be interested in spiritual awakening first, above and beyond everything. There will be no more material pursuits because we're all going to be surviving together in a community, rebuilding this planet. That's what's coming, Victoria.
Right. Right. So my understanding, as you were saying, one of the things I was shown a couple of days ago is that those who have been in the dark and choose light will have the opportunity to be rehabilitated, which we know that is the deprogramming, if you will. And then also what I've been shown is that the funding to create these humanitarian projects will come while the darkest of dark is happening, so that the new world is being created as the old world is falling apart. So a lot of the jobs you talk about, there will be humanitarian projects. So people will have the choice of, oh, I want to work for this humanitarian project. I want to work for this humanitarian project. So it might not be that you get a job being a farmer. It could be that you get a job working for this humanitarian project and you're one of the healers for a healing center, or you're one of the gardeners in this community garden. So the job opportunities will be completely different. They will be there, but they'll be completely different than the kind of work people have done in the past. This idea of going to an office and sitting in a cubicle and being a slave to the corporation, that is gone.
Definitely.
It's all going to be about cooperation and recreating the worlds. And so it's going to be a complete mind shift for people, because all they've ever known is the enslavement to the system. And that's
right. And
the systems are all going to dissolve. They're going to cease to exist.
They absolutely are, and they already are, because this is just a shell that we're seeing. That's why the system is kind of being kept in place by the Holy Spirit, because we have to survive. But it's really, from what I understand, they've been gutted. The dark ones have been gutted. So their time on Earth here, they're going to leave, and we're going to be left with a planet that has to be rebuilt, very similar to World War II. I was an exchange student in Germany in high school in this lifetime, but in my previous lifetime before this one, I died in Dachau concentration camp. And I remembered it. And when I was a child, I said to my parents, take me to Germany. I want to go to the concentration camp. I want to see. And they'd be like, what? Why would you want to do that? And I kept asking, and sure enough, I got to go. And I remembered being there. And what I saw when I was an exchange student with the family this time was how they rebuilt Germany so quickly, and how it was like a battlefield and it was empty. Everything was destroyed. But the women rebuilt Germany. The women, because there were so many men killed and so many injured men, and they were very compromised after the war. So the women set about and built all the buildings, and it's an amazing transformation they went through, and an amazing rebirth that they went through. And that's what's going to happen for all of us. We're going to rebuild. But they had to cross through battlefields with strewn with bodies. They had to clean up. They had to look at the devastation created by their own creation. And this is what we have to realize, that we created it this way. And so we have to take responsibility for the cleanup, and we have to take responsibility for doing it differently. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is right now, we're going to learn how to use the light that's inside of us to transform things. And that's what I'm doing. That's one of the things that I'm offering people, is a Jedi class. If you would like to take my Jedi warriorship class, it's being created right now. I have Jedi 1 Up and Jedi 2 and 3 coming. And these classes are for transforming the dark into light, or battling the dark, or sending them away. And it's very important that people do that, because they're all around us right now. The demons are here. And I've been attacked a lot this year. And we just need to keep sending them to the light, So this is all happening. I'm teaching that. I'm teaching Reiki, which is going to heal you completely. I can offer for free the healing frequency to anybody who listens here today. You just have to email me and I'll send it to you. And there's much more coming, much more beautiful things coming, Victoria. That we just have to walk through our battlefield. That's the reason I brought that up. We're going to cross the empty battlefield until we reach our destination, which is the 5D reality.
Right. On that battlefield, the battlefield is the 4D. That's why, and people aren't talking about it. So I kind of started talking about the 4D, because that is such an important part of the process. We got to go through the birth canal to get to rebirth, and that's the 4D. It's the battlefield. It's the peeling off all the layers of everything that we are not, so that we remember who we are. And that waking up is vital to to pulling ourselves out of that matrix reality, and then that battlefield that's coming for the collective of humanity. And we need to understand that we are light workers. So many light workers are just, I'm just going to hold the light. I don't want to go into that darkness. I'm just going to hold the light for humanity. The term light worker actually means light worker. And it's time to pull up our sleeves, put on the big girl panties, pull up our sleeves, because it's time. We're going to be getting to work. And the work is going to be helping to heal humanity, and helping to guide humanity, and help to lift humanity up through the incredible depths of suffering that might be coming, or that I understand is coming. And the other thing I wanted to touch on, you were talking about how the demons are everywhere. What I was being shown a couple of weeks ago is the reason that they are everywhere is because their habitat, their underworld, has been destroyed. So now they're all running around on the surface. Mm-hmm. That's why they're everywhere. And we have to be vigilant about spiritual protection.
Yes, we do. Wow. I've been feeling that lately.
Yeah. And they'll be pulled off the planet too. Mm-hmm. But they're a little bit harder. So what I was being shown about a year and a half ago is, why am I blanking on his name? He's here with his time space ship. Oh, Ezekiel. So Ezekiel came into our field in February of 2020. And what he was showing me is that he was here to remove the dark entities from the planet. They're being pulled off. And the physical ones were pretty easy to find under the tunnels and in the underground cities. The non-physical ones are harder. And the ones that disguise themselves as humans are harder to locate. But they will be purged from the planet as well, because they cannot physically be present in our 5D reality. That just energetically, it's impossible. So, but because those habitats have been destroyed, they're the non-physical entities are now on the surface, and they're being pulled off as they're recognized, but they're on the surface right now.
And that's what we light workers, that's what Jedi warriorship's all about.
Okay,
they have
cool.
to be sent to the light.
Yeah, and that's what hasn't been happening. We put spirit protection around ourselves, but the tool of being able to send those to the light, that has been missing. And I'm so grateful that you're creating that program for people to learn what is the solution. The solution to all of these dark entities being here is to send them to the light, send them back to source. And I love that. I'm so grateful you're doing that for people. The one other thing that was shown to me before we go, and we're running a long show, but because it's so interesting, and I think people will stick around because it's such an interesting topic, is that that yes, we are going to have to clean up the mess we made. I was also being shown that the good ETs and the guardians will assist us with the cleanup, but they're not going to clean it up for us. They'll assist us, but we have to clean up our mess. They're not just going to come in and go, okay, clean up, it's all gone. Not going to zap the old buildings and zap away. We're going to have to clean up the mess we made. But we will have assistance. So it won't be as long of a process as cleaning up after World War II was. I know I was in Germany in 2016, and there were still buildings that had that. Well, on the other side of the wall, in East Germany, there were still buildings that were devastated, that still hadn't been cleaned up. But in West Berlin, and some of the buildings were still had like shell holes in the sides of the buildings, and I think they were left there intentionally so that people wouldn't ever forget, kind of thing. But I don't think it'll take us 50 years to clean up after World War III, which is what we're going through right now. I think we'll have assistance from celestial beings, is what I'm hearing, and we actually will have to clean up our mess. So, but we'll have assistance, which I think will help people with this idea of how long and how to clean up the mess.
I also think that there's going to be some kind of protection when this purification takes place. And some people think we're going to be lifted up while the purification takes place, and that ETs are going to help us and they're going to clean up, and then we're going to go back down. And I don't know how it's going to happen. I know that God is going to purify this planet because it's destined. This is the destiny of this planet, is to be ascended. And it's been decided, and the universe has decided it. And we had the Pleiadian activation on December 21st of 2020. And the Pleiadian crystals were in Uluru Rock in Australia, and they were activated by the Pleiadians. And so we were informed by the elders of the Aborigines that it occurred. I did a meditation, a global meditation with that. And we were informed by the elders that it was a successful activation, meaning that the Pleiadian consciousness will take place here on Earth. And that's now I have the hiccups, sorry. We have a very advanced consciousness entering into this plane. And so people are going to move into that advanced consciousness. And just to confirm what you said earlier, you can't sustain life here at a low consciousness when the planet itself is at a very high frequency. And the process of moving to a very high frequency is literally painful to the body. So those people who are having ascension symptoms like pain in the body, that's why. Your cells are going from carbon to crystalline. And as that takes place, it's going to cause discomfort. And so for some people, you can't wake up too fast. You can't go through this too fast. You're going to leave your body. You're going to die. And so that is going to happen for some people. All of a sudden, this awareness is going to hit, and it's the light. It's like in the movie the Ten Commandments with Ben-Hur when he sees the burning bush, and he says, is that you, God? And God says, yes. And he said, why can't I see you? And he said, you wouldn't be able to look upon me. It would kill you, or you would die, something like that. And that is true. If we were to understand the full nature of God right now, it would blow us right out of our bodies. It's too much to absorb. So you have to raise your consciousness in levels, slow levels, in order to be able to really embrace what's happening here on this planet.
Yeah.
And that some people will leave and some people will stay. That's what's going to happen. It's not a bad thing. It's not a judgment. It's just the way it is.
Right. And so the other thing too is it's, and it isn't necessarily that the soul is, a dark soul or not in the light. So there are a lot of people whose bodies won't be able to make the shift.
That's what I'm referring to.
The soul wants to make the shift, their bodies won't be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so. We were, one of the things we talked about before we got on the show is how some light workers are transitioning out after receiving the arm poke, and it isn't because they didn't spiritually want to evolve. It's that their physical body wasn't able to make the transition, and so there will be a lot of physical bodies that can't make the crystalline transition.
Well, and that's what's happening here.
I think those souls will come right back through.
Well, they won't be able to come back to Earth, not unless they might be able to heal and ascend on the other side and then come back.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those bodies aren't going to ascend.
Yeah, they might have to get a new body and spend some time on the other side practicing awakening before they come, because it'll be a new reality here in this planet. So all these lower beings that have been running things, they won't be here much longer. And the people that are in between, that are innocent, that maybe took the arm stick, and they didn't mean anything bad by it, they thought they were doing the right thing. Hopefully we can transmute some of them. Some of them might wake up suddenly and what was I doing? What was I thinking? And hopefully they don't get too sick. And with the healing frequency I have, I can help neutralize it's especially the spike proteins and the graphene oxide that need to be neutralized. If people take the extra jabs that are being offered, they're going to have a buildup of graphene oxide, which is going to turn you into a human computer. The goal of the graphene oxide is that it's going to bind together, and it's programmable. It's programmable by the supercomputer that they're using, a Skynet supercomputer that they've created. And they're going to send messages to people who have the right amount of nanobots and graphene oxide to become part of the hive mind, the beast system. So you don't want to be taking those extra you-know-whats, and you want to let us purify your consciousness and reprogram your consciousness. I'm here to tell you, I can break your program. I can reprogram your consciousness, even if you have already had the arm stick. It's time to get on board with the healing programs that we healers are offering you. There's a lot coming that's going to save your life and make your life beautiful. You're going to be into your divine potential. That's really the goal here.
Before we close out, can we do that for other people?
Do what for other people?
The clearing. So, and here's the reason. I know a lot of women whose children were coerced into taking it. Can we do that for our children, or do they have to do it for themselves?
No, we can do it. I can send you the frequency, Victoria, and you can send it to others. So this is a very high process of delivery. So it's not something visible to the human eye.
Okay.
So if you send me, well, I have your email. I'll send you the healing frequency and the mandala that goes with it. Feel free to share it with anyone, and I'll explain to you how to do that. And we're going to save a lot of lives. We're going to lose a lot of lives. We're going to save a lot of lives. And I wanted to mention before we go about what's happening in Australia.
Oh, right.
I was contacted by a lot of Australian people who begged for help, said, please help us. And we are being attacked by the police. The children are being pepper sprayed and dragged away from their parents, taken to the stadiums and forcefully jabbed. and they asked if they could come on a show with me, and I said yes. And then I got a message from New Zealanders who said even worse. They said that all the children, well, I know that their agenda was to kill all the children, but that all the children will be rounded up over the next month and forcefully arm stick, and they will be separated from their parents, and then all housing, all property in New Zealand and Australia will be confiscated by the government, and it's going to be a totalitarian government. They're using Australia and New Zealand as a test case for the global New World Order implementation. So they are going to try to have it all completed by October 13th, so that everybody's jabbed, everybody's under control, all the children are executed, and all of the adults are under control, and their property has been confiscated. That's their goal. And they've started. They started this past week. So there were about 50,000 children so far that have been stuck and in New Zealand. Next week, they're going to go door to door and forcefully jab everybody, according to my sources. And he said it's real. They all said it's real, it's happening, and the police are beating everybody in the streets and dragging them away to hospitals and stadiums and doing this arm stick. So we need to be praying. We need to be using our light to support these people. And we did a special meditation last night, and I'm going to continue to do it to try to heal all of these people. I mean, to put down a protection around all these people. I've sent them the frequency, the healing frequency, and I'm going to continue to send the healing frequency to anyone who wants it on this planet to neutralize the effects of the arm stick.
Okay.
So those of you who are in Australia or New Zealand, please contact me and I'll do what I can to help you, to protect you from this. And all the rest of you, pray for your brothers and sisters in Australia and New Zealand. Ask for God to protect them, and know that when you take refuge in God, you are protected. You have to make that next step from fear to God. Because I've already been pursued by the deep state. they've already tried to kill me. I've been through it. I took my refuge in God, and they haven't taken me off the planet. That's what you all need to do, is take refuge in God right now and pray that your brothers and sisters do the same, because the purge has begun, and so has the awakening. You got to decide, are you going to go with the purge? You're going to go with the awakening. So go with the light and help us create more light.
Right, right. And thank you so much for that. I will send that out to, well, all of my audience, all of your audience, all of my list, every person I know I'll share this with, because the more of us who are doing this work, the less of an impact the darkness will have. I know that for a fact, because we are the creators of our reality. And the sooner that the old world will crumble. So every one of us who's in the light needs to be part of the solution, rather than just complaining about the problem. And I'm so thankful that you have a solution.
Yeah, it's time to stop fearing the matrix and recreating it by focusing on it and all that. It's time, wherever your intention flows is where it's going to get created. So I'm constantly talking about, let's create the new reality. What's it going to be? What are we going to do? What's it look like? What's your job in it? You know, just keep working on that, and it's going to happen. Because I came out of the dark and I created this world for myself. I created this practice. I'm busy doing, you know, all that good stuff. So let's do that. You know, we've got to get busy doing that, Victoria. We really do.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like what I was hearing this morning, is it's a do or die moment. So
yeah, it really is. And that means that you don't sit on the couch and watch other people do the work for you. You've got to be proactive. If you're not proactive, you'll get harvested. I'm sorry. I mean, it sounds really dramatic, but you know, if you're just, you know, I don't know what to do, and you know, you can meditate, if nothing else. You know, you don't necessarily have to make, it work like me, but you can meditate and you can ask for the light.
Right. The other thing I was suggesting people to do is create vision boards, which I don't think people have done them for a while, but that is very, very powerful. Create a vision board of who you envision yourself being, envision the kind of world you want to create, because our visions create reality. We got to start visioning again. And I think that got lost for a couple of years as people got sucked into the dark storm. Our vision will be what creates the new reality. So we, even if we can't physically do anything about it yet, well, we have our, the meditations and your programs and working with spiritual teachers and healers. That's something we can do. And if you, to be more active in that, start creating a vision board, start putting up words that mean something to you, start creating a personal vision board and a global vision board. What do we want this new world to look like? And that's how we start to create it. It seems like something small, but it's something every single one of us can do if we're not a broadcaster, and if we're not a teacher, and if we're not out there helping to wake up humanity and help to change the collective narrative like you and I are. One of the things people can do is that simple. Just start creating vision boards and envisioning and speaking into reality the vision they want to create.
I'm speaking it, and I did a vision board, and I went through all this dark stuff, and I didn't have a thing, and I was targeted by my family, by the Illuminati. They took everything from me, and I put a vision board on my wall, and I said, I'm going to accomplish this, 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 and this, these 5 things, and I did it, including it was writing my book, which is now all over the world. And for those people who let me show you my book. If you want to learn how to wake up and you don't have enough money to come and see me, this is my book, Emerging from the Matrix. Healing human trauma and ending global enslavement. And I have 22 steps in the back for waking up, how to wake up. And in here is the story, not only of my story, but of dozens of healing miracles that have happened around me or in my life or as a part of my work. I can show you how to overcome the darkness. And this is what 25-year journey, that I put in here. And book number 2 is Healing Mind Control, which I'm writing right now. It's going to be healing the global mind control. So, the solution is there. Don't be afraid to come to people like us and to ask for help. Book a session with me, or with, I don't know what exactly Victoria does, but book a session with Victoria or somebody like us. Because we're here, we're the guides. We were born for this. We're holding the light in the storm. I've got a lantern up here, and I can walk you through the path to the other side. And you're going to just be blown away by the beauty and the abundance, prosperity, joy that's coming. But you have to take those steps. Nobody's going to do it for you. You got to walk forward.
Yep. Well, thank you so, so, so much for being here. I'm so grateful. It's great to finally meet you in person. I've been watching your shows.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's wonderful to talk about all this and to be awake with you, Victoria. It's a blessing to be awake with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for being here and for the light that you are and for the work that you're doing and for holding that. You'll love this. The visual that I'm getting from that is one of the, in the Bible, when they're talking about Jesus and what are they called? The vessels that were carrying the light for the bridegroom, and how some of the oil was empty, and then some who kept the light. And that's like, oh, that's us. We're the vessels who are holding the light for right. And
that's beautiful.
Isn't that great? I have to go back and see if I can find that story again in the New Testament about the maidens who held up the light.
Please send it to me, because they tried to take that from me. They saw that I was this light being and this beautiful little girl, and I kept saying, no, it's mine, and when the worst was over, I went to my dad and said, I want my light back and my power back. And in a way, he was a teacher for me. I mean, he wasn't as dark as somebody like George Bush. And I said to him, Dad, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to go into the light. So I'm going to take things back that you took from me. He'd be like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay, I know you've always been really spiritual. I don't know what to say. It's like he allowed me to do that, and I had a chance to work through all that stuff and to regain all those things, and then to reform them and to heal them and to transform them. All of you are in your spiritual cocoon right now. And when you leave your spiritual cocoon, you're going to be a butterfly. So let the alchemy happen. Let this change take place, and don't be afraid. Just walk into the light with love in your heart and faith in your soul that we're going to make it, because we are. And you have to believe it. You can't give in to fear. And that's when they got you, if you give into the fear. So
That's
we're
right.
going to get there.
That's right. Thank you so much. And for everyone that's watching, thank you for being here. Thank you for being the love and the light that you are. And remember to hold your light so high others can't help but see their own light. And until next time, and as always, get bold, be fearless, and live free. Well.
Namaste and Om Namah Shivaya. We love you. I love you all.